Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at some really interesting source material, the full transcript from the Wholesome Direct 2025. This was broadcast on IGN's YouTube channel.
That's right. And it's quite a significant event now. This was actually the 5th anniversary for Wholesome Direct.
5 years already. Wow.
Yeah. And, looking back, they've showcased around 375 games, apparently generated over 1 million wish lists.
1 million? That's huge.
It is. And helped raise about $200,000 for charity in the past. So it's got some real impact.
Okay, so a big milestone and clear impact. Our mission today, then, is to really dig into this transcript. We want to understand what Wholesome Games actually means to the folks involved, look at the kinds of games they featured, and just generally get a handle on why this event and this whole community seems to matter so much.
Basically a shortcut for you to understand this slice of the gaming world.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this.
So diving in, one of the first things you notice is how the different content creators who hosted parts of the show, they each tried to define wholesome for their own communities.
Right, it's not like one single dictionary definition, is it? It feels more varied.
Totally. It's more like a collection of ideas, maybe a feeling. Cozy K, for instance, talked about games that center slowing down and giving yourself a little time to just be.
Slowing down. That resonates immediately, like de-stressing.
Yeah. And Kat Ortellier kind of built on that, mentioned enjoying simple things, calming games, finding new stuff, but also nostalgic things, that whole slow and relaxing slice of life idea.
It paints a picture of games designed to help you just unwind.
Definitely. And for someone like Ms., who mentioned struggling with anxiety, these games are like an escape. They said to escape reality for a bit and immerse myself in these peaceful virtual worlds, trying to create that safe, warm feeling.
That sounds incredibly appealing, that safe, warm feeling. Welcoming.
But it seems like it's more than just relaxing, too. Your comforting friend and Lyric Keeper described their community space as a affirming, inspiring, educational, and creative haven for gamers of the soft and sensitive sort.
Soft and sensitive sort. That phrasing, plus haven. It suggests a place where maybe it's okay to be a bit vulnerable. Find some creative outlets.
I think so. And Jules, or Highwells, brought up something really practical that balance with life, saying you're always deserving of a wholesome moment for yourself.
Right. Framing it not as just a treat, but something you kind of need, something you've earned.
Yeah. Kip added another layer, feeling focused and relaxed, finding joy in games that are just really beautifully crafted, speaks to the quality, the care involved.
I liked how Ari brought in values, compassion, mindfulness, and simple happiness. Looking for inspiring and meaningful gems. That elevates it, doesn't it? Beyond just the game mechanics.
It does. It's about what the game inspires in you. And Samantha, or Sophista, talked about the community aspect, an inclusive space with a comfy vibe.
Comfy vibe. That keeps coming up.
Uh-huh. And Artie, speaking as someone trans and disabled, really highlighted the importance of games telling diverse stories and giving space to tell our own. Accessibility, shared joy.
That's powerful. And Val, Space Valkyries, pointed out these games can offer comfort in stressful times, but still tell compelling narratives. So not necessarily just light and fluffy.
Exactly. So if you try to pull all that together, Wholesome, at least based on this transcript, seems to be about, well, positive emotions, player well-being, mental space, inclusivity, connection, finding meaning in maybe simpler, slower activities. It's less a genre label like puzzle and more about the designer's intent, maybe, and the feeling it evokes in the player.
I feel spot on. The intent of the feeling.
Yeah.
And the community around it, which, speaking of community, the Direct itself seems like a big part of how they all connect.
For sure. It's the main showcase, right, for what's new in this space. They drop surprise releases, games you can play, like, right then.
Today releases.
Yeah.
Always exciting.
Yeah, world premieres, updates, all the usual showcase stuff, but focused.
And they kept mentioning wholesomegames.com. That seems to be the main hub.
Right. Full list of games, newsletter sign up. It's the online home base after the show wraps up.
One thing that really stood out in the transcript was how they deliberately used content creators as hosts.
Yes, that felt very intentional. They bring their own audiences, and they use these great names for their communities, like Little Corner of the Internet, Creative Happy Space,
Kingdom of Confetti, The Umbrellas.
Gardens of Phalia, Welcoming and Inclusive Frizzbite. All these lovely, unique names. It connects those smaller communities directly to the larger event.
It totally changes the feel, doesn't it? Less like a big corporate announcement and more like, I don't know, your friends showing you some cool games they found.
Exactly. And they even mentioned Patch Magazine doing a dedicated physical issue about the showcase. That's a pretty unique way to engage.
A physical magazine, that's neat.
Hmm.
And they called the montage section an institution.
Yeah, highlighting how it connects the new games to ones people already love from past directs, like Unpacking or Moonstone Island. Gives it that sense of history, continuity.
Okay, so we have this idea of wholesome being about feeling and community. What about the games themselves? What kinds of things are people doing in these games based on the transcript?
Well, certain activities definitely pop up a lot. Building and decorating is almost like foundational.
Yeah. Give me some examples.
Designing your own island and gordlets together, crafting rooms, customizing furniture, building a whole dungeon world, even turning puzzles into furniture, apparently.
Puzzles into furniture.
Decorating a van and camper and make it home, island building and Islanders New Shores, shaping your home in Hobbit Tales. It's all about creativity, nesting, making a space yours.
Makes sense. What else?
Nurturing things is another big one. Farming, foraging, gathering.
Ah, the Stardew Valley effect, maybe.
Could be. There's Farming on a Ship, a foraging game about identifying real plants and mushrooms with harvesting, recipes, a market.
Identifying real plants. That's cool. Educational.
Yeah. Gathering materials is a game called Fuzzybot. Tending your garden in Hobbit Tales. It connects you to nature, cycles, caring for things.
Okay. Building, nurturing. What about thinking? Puzzles.
Definitely puzzles and exploration, but often framed as thoughtful rather than high pressure. Like a scrapbooking game where puzzles reveal a family story. Monument Valley 3, obviously known for its clever levels. Guardian of Nature, where you change size to explore. Mysterious Islands, ancient puzzles.
Oh, One Move Away was mentioned, the packing puzzle game.
Right, and puzzle adventures in general. It's about observation, interacting thoughtfully.
And story. You mentioned compelling narratives earlier.
Hugely important. Seems like a lot of these games ground the experience in emotion. Learning family history, the game Fishbowl described as a coming-of-fate story about self-discovery, grief, hope, friendship.
Wow, heavy themes, potentially.
Yeah, but handled, presumably, in that wholesome framework. There's a game about hope and justice called All Will Rise, which is a narrative courtroom deck builder, even a game reflecting on life and death. They use gameplay to explore some deep human stuff.
And community connection within the games themselves.
Woven through many of them, hanging out with friends, sharing islands and gordlets. Together, that one's multiplayer.
Ah, multiplayer. Good to know.
Neighbor chat, community kitchens, meeting characters, teamwork, friendship. Fishbowl even has video calls with loved ones in the game. It's about building those virtual connections.
Okay. Any simulation or management?
Some, yeah. A bizarre managing game was mentioned. And fascinatingly, Let's Build a Dungeon is a sim about the games industry itself. Marketing, contracts, servers.
Wait, meta.
Totally meta. And All Will Rise involves managing a team. So even those traditionally complex genres get a look in, often with that wholesome twist.
Now here's something that might surprise people. The transcript mentioned combat and challenge.
It did. And this really pushes against a simple definition. There was a nice fight clip mentioned, and then this game described as a lethal, cozy adventure, which sounds like a contradiction, but it involves creepy robots, rescuing bots, upgrading gear, fighting.
Lethal cozy. Okay.
Right. And All Will Rise, the courtroom game. It has card battles as conversations, using cards for emotions, intellect, persuasion, intimidation instead of, like, swords.
So it's not necessarily about avoiding conflict entirely.
Seems not. Maybe it's about how conflict or challenge is presented or resolved. The transcript notes Monument Valley balances meditation with challenge. The Lethal Cozy game mixes peace with combat. All Will Rise is about fighting for something positive justice, the future.
So engaging with difficulty, but maybe in a meaningful or non-malicious way, it still fits the vibe.
That seems to be the implication. It's about the underlying purpose and feeling, not just stripping out all gameplay challenge.
Okay, this is a much broader picture than maybe some people expect.
Right.
To make it more concrete, let's touch on a few specific games they highlighted. Give us a taste of the range.
Sounds good. Gordlets Together is a great example of that community focus. It's multiplayer, building, fishing. But the source mentioned community demand driving features, people saying "Gord morning" in the Discord.
Gourd morning. Nice.
Yeah, it feels like the players are really co-creating the space, making it feel like home.
Cool. What else?
The Guardian of Nature. This was one of those surprise Play Today releases. Beautiful hand-drawn art, nature-inspired. But the unique hook is you change size.
Change size. How does that work?
You can shift from being normal size to tiny, exploring the environment from totally different perspectives. Imagine seeing the world as an insect might.
Okay, that's a really neat mechanic. Very creative.
And then there's Let's Build a Dungeon, the meta one, simulating running an MMO studio.
Right. The business side, too.
Yeah, but the source emphasized a new co-op card-driven mode specifically for stress-free creativity. So you can build your dungeon world without the pressure of competition or failure states found in many Sims.
So taking a complex idea but offering a relaxed entry point, smart.
All Will Rise, the narrative courtroom deck builder. Again, fascinating blend. The battles are these strategic conversations using decks based on emotions, intellect, persuasion.
Not physical attack.
Exactly. And the story's about fighting for the future, justice, people power, using game mechanics to explore really big social ideas.
Intriguing. What about something more purely narrative?
Fishbowl sounds like that. Described as a coming-of-fate story, self-discovery, grief, hope, friendship. And the activities mentioned are very grounded. Video calls, working from home, unpacking memories, relatable emotional stuff.
Very different pace and focus. And big IPs. Anything familiar?
Well, Hobbit Tales of the Shire. It's Lord of the Rings, but purely focused on peaceful hobbit life.
Ah, so no orcs. Just gardening and second breakfast.
Pretty much. Tending your garden, shaping your home, exploring, trading, friendship, food. Lots of food. It's launching July 29th. Shows how even a massive world can be seen through this wholesome lens.
That's a great example. One more.
Islanders New Shores. It builds on a minimalist strategy game called Islanders, as complexity line of sight, boons, things like that.
So more challenge there.
Potentially, yes. But significantly, the source made sure to highlight a stress-free sandbox mode. So if you just want to build and design without worrying about scores, you can. Again, catering to that desire for peaceful creation.
That range is genuinely impressive. From cozy farming to courtroom battles of wits to metagame dev sims.
It really is diverse. And one other thing mentioned multiple times throughout the Direct was a specific fundraising effort.
Ah, yes, that's important to cover. The transcript was quite clear about this. Wholesome Games is partnering with Serenity Forge to raise funds for Point of Pride.
Right. And the source material explains what Point of Pride is. A nonprofit that gives financial aid and direct support to trans people who need health and wellness care.
What kind of support did the source mention?
Things like gender-affirming garments and financial aid for surgery and other types of gender-affirming care.
Okay. And how could people contribute, according to the Direct?
Through buying special shirts celebrating the showcase, a portion of the money from those sales goes to Point of Pride. The call to action in the transcript was to visit wholesomegames.com to either buy a shirt or just share the link to spread the word.
Got it. And just to be clear for everyone listening, as we cover this, we're relaying the information exactly as presented in the source transcript, who they're partnering with, what the organization does according to the source, and how they suggested people could help. We're reporting the details, not endorsing or taking a position ourselves.
Absolutely. It's about accurately conveying what was in the original material. Understanding this initiative, though, does add another layer to that community aspect we discuss, tying into the stated values of inclusivity and support.
Definitely. So wrapping up this deep dive into the Wholesome Games Direct 2025 transcript, it really shows a movement defined more by feeling, community, and well-being than by strict genre lines.
Yeah, and encompassing a surprisingly wide variety of gameplay. Building, farming, yes, but also puzzles, deep narratives, even carefully framed conflict and challenge.
It seems less about avoiding things and more about cultivating positive, affirming, meaningful experiences. Creating those spaces to slow down, connect, create, or just be, as Cozy K put it.
And the event itself, using creators, focusing on community, the charity element, it all seems to reflect those core values.
Exploring sources like this transcript really highlights how specific communities in gaming are carving out spaces that clearly resonate deeply with players looking for certain kinds of experiences.
Experiences offering comfort, creativity, connection, things maybe people are seeking more in, well, a pretty overwhelming world sometimes.
Which leads to a final thought for you to ponder. What does the obvious popularity and the growth of this whole Wholesome Games movement hitting its 5th anniversary, racking up huge wish list numbers, raising significant charity funds, What does that tell us about what maybe a growing number of people are actually looking for in interactive entertainment today? What stands out most to you from all this?